Press conference by Minister Hayashi will begin. Please go ahead. Thank you very much. I have a report on the situation in Ukraine. On the 27th, the G7 foreign ministers meeting took place, to which I participated. Aggression by Russia is an invasion of and violence of the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine. It is a serious violation of international law that bans use of force, and that such outrageous act cannot be permissible. We shared such notion. Japan has taken action to impose sanctions against Russia, including sanctions against individuals and entities, including President Putin, and asset freezing of the Russian Central Bank. And today, cabinet agreement was introduced, and we are swiftly taking measures to impose sanctions against Belarus. The government of Japan and the people of Japan are with Ukraine. Yesterday, the Japan-Ukraine Summit telephone conference had taken place, and Prime Minister Kishida told President Zelensky that Japan is prepared to provide a new emergency humanitarian assistance of $100 million for the people of Ukraine who are facing challenge and difficulties. We are also planning to take the policy of extending the period of status of residence of Ukrainian people living in Japan who wish to stay in Japan. We are with the people of Ukraine and will provide as much assistance as possible. At the same time, the Japanese government is making maximum efforts to ensure the safety of Japanese citizens in Ukraine. As the Prime Minister announced yesterday, in order to assist the Japanese civilians that are evacuating by land through Poland, in addition to Lvivia, west of Ukraine, in Rzeszów of Poland, we established an ad hoc liaison office. On the 19th, I had a telephone meeting with Foreign Minister of Romania, and on the 26th with my counterpart in Poland, I asked them for their cooperation for smooth entry by Japanese evacuees from Ukraine, and both foreign ministers commented that they will provide maximum support. Aggression by Russia against Ukraine is an act that shakes the foundation of international order and is a clear breach of international law. In order to defend the foundation of international order, we will unite with the G7 and the international community and act resolutely and demonstrate that such outrageous act by Russia is accompanied by high cost. Please raise your hand if you have questions. Please proceed to your closest microphone, identify yourself and your affiliation, and proceed to your question.
Tomohiro-san, go ahead. Asahi Shimbun. What Ukraine is calling upon about the International Legion of Foreign Warriors, the embassy in Japan is using SNS to call upon foreign troops to participate. And so are there any Japanese nationals who wish to fight in Ukraine? And isn't there any legal problem with this with respect to the use of equipment and so forth? So Ukrainian embassy in Japan is making such requests. I am aware of what they're asking for. At any rate, as MOFA, throughout Ukraine, we have issued a recommendation for Japanese nationals to evacuate from the country, regardless of the purpose or objective. Traveling to Ukraine is something to be refrained from. We ask the Japanese nationals to follow that recommendation.
Next question, Abe-san, please. Yomiuri newspaper, Abe is my name. On economic cooperation with Russia, in your opening remarks, you mentioned economic sanctions against Russia. To date, the Japanese government was of the policy not to close the window of dialogue with Russia. But with the invasion into Ukraine, what is the position of the Japanese government in the context of economic cooperation and peace treaty? This aggression by Russia to Ukraine is an unilateral attempt to change the status quo and shakes the foundation of international order. It constitutes a serious violation of international law and is totally unacceptable. We strongly condemn such action. Now is the time to unite and act resolutely. We will take bold action to demonstrate such position. It is important to communicate that such outrageous behavior is accompanied by high cost. The international community is of the notion that relations with Russia cannot be maintained as it used to be due to the aggression by Russia. Japan will liaise with the G7 and the international community and impose strong sanctions against Russia.
Maeda-san from Kyodo Tsushin. Maeda from Kyodo Tsushin. I would like to ask a question about nuclear sharing. With Russia's aggression into Ukraine, within LDP, there are calls for having a discussion on nuclear sharing. So, Minister, do you think there's a need to discuss nuclear sharing? What is your stance? I am aware that there are such comments being made. As Japanese government, we have the policy of three non-nuclear policy. Our stance remains the same in that we're going to uphold the policy. So, having U.S. nuclear weaponry in one's own country's territory in an emergency by mounting a nuclear weapon on a fighter jet, making it operational so that U.S. nuclear deterrence can be shared for the purpose of defending one's country. But if that is what is assumed, we cannot accept that because of our principle.
Next question, Tanaka-san of GG Press. My name is Tanaka. Related to the sanctions against Russia, European countries have banned the flyover by Russian planes over their airspace, and similar action has been taken by Russia against European planes. Is Japan planning to join such action? As part of the sanctions against Russia, European countries have banned the flying by Russian planes in their airspace. We understand that such measures have been taken. We place weight on our coordination with the G7 and the international community and are taking various responses against the situation. In deciding specific sanctions against Russia, we comprehensively study and come to a conclusion on what measure would be most appropriate. And specifically on the issue that you have asked, due to the geographical difference between Europe and Japan and the impact to logistics, we think that such factors must be considered. I will refrain from making any detailed comments on the process of study for each and every measure, but we will continue to act resolutely against this situation.
Nishimura-san from Radio France. Nishimura from Radio France. I have a question regarding Ukraine. The Japanese government said that for those who are already living in Japan, the Ukrainians, are you considering entry by their families and relatives into Japan? What is your stance, Mr. Minister? As I said at the outset, our hearts are with the people of Ukraine. We have expressed, and we're going to offer $100 million yen loan. And we're also going to provide $100 million emergency humanitarian aid for those who are evacuating from Ukraine so that these people can be protected promptly and appropriately. That is important. So from that viewpoint, looking at the developments in Ukraine, we will take into account the status of the Ukrainian citizens, and we will collaborate with the Immigration Service Agency to take appropriate action.
Due to the next appointment, the next question will be the final question. Nobita-san, Asahi Newspaper, Nobita. The Russian embassy in Japan said Japan supported Nazis twice. Previously, the Hitler administration, and this time the Ukraine government. Such comment was uploaded on SNS. What's your view on this matter? I understand that such communication was made, but such assertion from the Russian side is completely baseless and unacceptable. Thank you very much. This is the end of the press conference. Thank you.